Out of all the good parts that this movie has, the best might actually be Timothy Chalamet, who for like 20 minutes of screen time has a lot of character depth.
I'd like to buy these sunglasses.
I am not joking. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today our movie in the middle is Don't Look Up. Don't Look Up stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Rob Morgan, Jonah Hill, Mark Rylance, Cate Blanchett, Tyler Perry, Ron Perlman, Ariana Grande, and Meryl Streep. It is about two scientists who try to convince both the public and the government about a catastrophic comet that is headed directly for Earth, and no one believing them or doing anything about it. This is the newest movie by Adam McKay, who has also done The Big Short and Vice, and as I learned recently, Step Brothers and Anchorman Ron Burgundy. I actually didn't know that he did those last two, but every movie I've seen by him is very specifically done. He definitely has his own style because his movies are like a museum. It's like if a museum was a movie. No, not that kind of movie. The kind that has like displays and logos and titles that come up on the screen and quotes from people who never even existed. Things like that. It's like if a movie would take you through an exhibit of some sort of time period or some specific story with things that you could read and look at. And this all goes to serve the purpose of being fully satire. Adam McKay is great at doing satire, and Don't Look Up may be his most satirical yet. This movie is so incredibly on the nose, but it's supposed to be. It is a movie that not only is on the nose, but knows that it's supposed to be on the nose. It knows what it's doing. I have never said the word nose so many times. Now, does that make it good? Maybe. Some could argue that, yeah, you could just take anything that's happening in society, throw it into a movie. That doesn't make it a good movie. It just makes it what it is. Now, movies do reflect society, so there is that element to it. But I do think that this one is good. Every time I thought this movie is too far-fetched or cartoonish or unbelievable to be taken seriously, I remembered one specific crucial fact. I lived through this. I am still living through this. So let's address the elephant in the room about Comet-19. I mean, the comet. This movie is very specifically supposed to be about COVID. Or is it? I actually did some fun research because sometimes I like to be intelligent and know what I'm talking about. This movie was actually set to shoot in April of 2020, which means that COVID was only out in the public and in society for like a month or two by that point. The movie had already been written if it was being shot in April. So it could not have been about COVID because even if COVID was already out, there's not nearly enough time to gather the reactions of people in America and then write a movie about it and schedule it to be shot. So I looked up what it was originally supposed to be about. It was actually supposed to revolve around climate change. And then, coincidentally, became about COVID because of all the stuff that was going on, and this script already lent itself to being exactly like that, with people not believing things that are scientifically fact. And I'm sure in the gap that they had, they talked about things that they could add or change a little bit or enhance to make it seem even more like COVID, because let's be honest, like, that's basically what this movie's about now. But originally it was about climate change, so it's funny how it could be about both of those things, and we never even realized it. Now, the movie itself is hilarious and very on point. I've already talked about how on the nose it is about everything, but the actual story itself, if you're watching it just as a movie, is very funny. Honestly, this really isn't a movie that you can watch just as a movie, because if you're not sure of what it's about, which means you're living under a rock, so you're probably not watching this movie in the first place, it might not actually be that funny, or it's going to be pretty bad to you, because it's like, what the hell is any of this about? It is hilarious. It was so much funnier the second time I watched it. It actually got much better. That is in large part due to the characters. There are so many great characters in this movie. I can't go through all of them, but I will say that they are just so extreme and so exaggerated, and some of them are so hilarious. Some of them you want to watch be consumed by this comet. And then some of them are just very normal because they're supposed to be the grounded ones, like the two main characters, Leo, who plays Dr. Mindy, and Jennifer Lawrence, who plays Kate DiBiase. They're a professor and a kind of a student in college who was working on her thesis. I loved their characters because they're just too, I don't want to say lowly, but they're low on in the hierarchy of like all these, they have all these bosses and everything, but they discover this world-ending event. Then suddenly they become a part of this giant public catastrophe. Now, Leo is Dr. Mindy. I love Leo in everything he's in. He's one of my favorite actors, and so I was very excited to see him in yet another movie. And he's great because he plays a very anxiety-ridden, low-key kind of guy. Very shy all the time, but he has his issues, which I'll get to in a minute. But I loved his character because everything he does is just so reserved, even though he's stressed the fuck out. Like, there's a part where somebody says something very stressful and he just goes, oh gosh. But my favorite thing about Leo's character is we get another Leo freakout, which, we all love.
Hey! Lay your palm flat on that tabletop! Until their client either buys or fucking dies! I practiced them and now I don't look like I goddamn practiced them. Every fucking night. That's it. That's fucking it.
So yeah, we get another one of those in this movie. And it may possibly be my favorite Leo freakout. And then Jennifer Lawrence, I haven't loved her in most of the recent stuff she's been in. She's not one of my favorite actresses overall, although I can appreciate that she's a very good actress. But I really liked her in this just because she's so real. She's very like, you're telling me this is what this is. And she is very funny because she's very sarcastic. She's a very real person. She is the, how do I put this? They call her the spokesperson for the youth and mentally ill in the movie, basically because she's a hipster. And you have Dr. Oglethorpe, who is played by Rob Morgan, who I absolutely loved. He's probably the most grounded character in this entire movie because he is just the guy who's like, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do it. Let's not be weird about it. Let's get this done. You needed him in this movie. The guy just has no problems. And then, of course, you have every other character who you just want to strangle, like Meryl Streep, who plays the president. And then you have Jonah Hill, who plays the president's son, who is very important in the White House and does almost nothing but be an absolute idiot. And then you have, who I think is probably one of the grossest, worst characters I have ever seen in a movie, Peter Isherwell. Mark Rylance plays a lot of characters that I don't love, but he's so good at it. I want to kill this character with my bare hands. He plays a sort of hyperbolic mishmash of a bunch of different CEOs and moguls and technological people in our society, but like to an extreme. And he's so dumb, but he thinks he's smart. And he's so annoying and rude and basically causes an entire downfall in this movie. Real quick, a little intermission for all my children watching out there. Kids, if you want to watch this movie, but you're not old enough just yet, I recommend Chicken Little. It's a movie that's basically this movie, but for you. Ask your parents. We doubted this movie. We said it's the worst Disney movie that's ever been made when it came out. We were wrong, because this movie has the cold hard facts. Chicken Little, only on Disney+. One middle aspect that I have is, this is an incredibly frustrating and anxiety-inducing movie. The reason it's a middle element is because that doesn't take away from the movie. In fact, that's kind of the purpose of the entire movie, is to show you how frustrating this all is, to show you how stupid this all is, to show you how stressful it all is. And on the first watch, I think I was about a third of the way through, and I was like, I don't know if I can continue watching this, because there's a specific scene where they go on this news segment, this sort of talk show, And the way it was shot, I mean, the way the whole thing is shot is very chaotic and close up, but specifically that part was so stressful and was like, I just need this to end. And the movie, a lot of that movie is like that. So even if you agree with it, I can see you not liking it. Or even if somebody likes it, I can see them not wanting to watch this again. I will say the second time around, it's not as bad because you know what's coming, and a lot more of the jokes hit. I didn't see all the humor at first, but there was a lot to it. I mean, it really made me appreciate the serenity of like the woods without any technology or news or people. I have one very specific low with the movie, and that's a character choice that they made for Dr. Mindy, played by Leo. There's something that he does, it's like a subplot that doesn't make sense to his character. And they try to explain it. They have like little moments that show you a little bit of why he might be doing this, and then they have a scene later on that sort of outright explains his character. It was like I understood what they were doing. I got that they were trying to show his sort of two sides when he gets into this entire debacle, but it just wasn't displayed very well. It wasn't shown or explained very well. They tried to do it with like one scene, and then that was pretty much it. It really just didn't make sense. If they had explained it better, I could maybe see where where they were going with it, why they decided to do that. But otherwise, I didn't really think it was that necessary. I think it just added a little bit of padding to the runtime. So overall, Don't Look Up definitely met my expectations. Not really like I had any expectations for it in the first place, because I had no idea what it was about when I put it on my most anticipated of last year. It is one of the weirdest, funniest, most thought-provoking movies I have seen in a while, and it feels very cheap to say that, considering it's like, oh, there's nothing thought-provoking about it, it's just what's been happening. Yeah, well, you know what? They put that in a movie, and that movie made sense. And it's kind of sad that that movie made sense, but they did that. Adam McKay was able to put all this in a movie that not only was coherent, but made you definitely reflect on what's been going on. And honestly, this movie has a 54% on Rotten Tomatoes. Does not shock me at all. I can see this being a very polarizing, split right down the middle movie. It's all really depending on whether you don't look up or not. But I will say, all things considered, it does have a very heartwarming and earthwarming ending. I'm going to give Don't Look Up a 3.5 out of 4. Guys, I highly suggest that if you have not seen it yet, please go and watch Don't Look Up. It is on Netflix, and you'll see what I mean when you watch it. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and remember, just look up.